Yo everybody, hey, it's me and Buster Green. So this was supposed to be my review of Naked Gun, but I actually don't have that much to say about it, so I'll keep it quick. The movie was good. If you like Liam Neeson, it's the best goddamn Liam Neeson movie ever made, which is crazy because I had otherwise written him off as too old or too retired or too canceled at this point to like smash it out of the park like this. I have to praise that the movie literally has a joke every 20 seconds, almost as a force of habit, even bleeding into the credits, which was kind of weird, but very amusing. Now, I don't think they all hit, but the frequency is something I haven't felt in years, maybe not even ever. Like, they're overall pretty decent jokes, but there are a lot of jokes that are old 1990s callbacks, jokes to other things, better movies. Some of them feel borderline stolen. Like, I'm definitely sure I saw some callback jokes to, like, the original Naked Gun, which is obvious. But then there was also, like, Monty Python. Definitely Family Guy, because Seth MacFarlane was a producer on this. They totally did, like, the P-tier Griffin joke from, like, season 1 with just a slightly different outcome. There was some stuff from Austin Powers, and they even referenced something about Mary, which is something I'll get back to later. Anyway, Naked Gun was an experience you have to see to believe. My audience was like bouncing off the walls of laughter and comedy, and it honestly felt really good. And maybe there's a reason for that, because I just feel like there hasn't been any real good or serious comedy movies in like forever. And I think that's caused this like real need and real yearning that people are just missing something in their souls. And it was very similar to what happened with Superman last month, where it just felt good that a general nice movie came out with people struggling to do the right thing, and we haven't seen that in decades either. I should also probably mention that Happy Gilmore also dropped on Netflix like the same day last week too. Quickly reviewing that one as well, it's half good, half bad. I would say the good half is the first half of it, where Sandler generally manages to do some pretty screwball maneuvers by screwing over some basic sports cliches as he goes through the cliche beats of a comeback movie. But then he undercuts it all in very unexpected ways. But then after the midpoint of the film, it kind of runs out of steam, where it kind of drops the comeback quest while putting him against what seems to be a super dated reference to the XFL, a failed attempt by WWF Kingpin Vince McMahon, who I think is leading the Department of Education now, or maybe died in a car crash. Anyway, XFL was his attempt to make football more like wrestling by giving everyone wrestling-style fantasy backstories where they were like a disgraced Viking or raised in a Tarzan village. And either way, you could buy like action figures of the players after the fact. Anyway, I bring it all up because the entire second half of Happy Gilmore is just a what-if story of what if someone made the XFL but for golf. It doesn't quite work, but hey, I get why they'd go for it in a movie, because it was at least visually spectacular. Anyway, those two oddities aside, like, I feel like people have been massively hungry for a comedy movie, and I guess, like, there's a lack of that lately. Like, I was so hungry, I even watched that stupid, preposterous Jerry Seinfeld Pop-Tart movie that no one else did. I think that movie failed because it dropped on streaming, and it probably would have bombed theatrical too. But what's funny after the fact is Seinfeld tried to gesture like, I made a movie shitting on the guy who invented Pop-Tarts. It's so anti-woke. Doesn't my takedown of the Pop-Tart man oppress you? Like, the only thing otherwise that's been on my radar as a comedy film, like, I don't know, there was like a couple of times where like a comedian would try to make a movie about themselves, but then like the movie wouldn't make sense because it was like, too intrinsically tied to their life story, or like inside jokes that you had to like know them intimately to like understand. And then when I've tried to like seek out new comedy films, it's been a wasteland. Like, the classification for what even is a comedy film has like sunken like to abnormal depths. Like, the bar has just gone that low. Like, is Barbie a comedy? I don't think so. I think it's an art criticism piece. It's a slasher horror movie where Mickey Mouse skull fucks a dude a comedy. Well, I mean, I laughed at that, but it's definitely not a comedy. It's kind of gross in some places. It's just so bad that like lately I heard an argument lately from some guy that Jurassic Park 6 is a comedy because it stars Chris Pratt, and no, just because he won't stop making lame jokes, it's still a dinosaur adventure movie. Like, I don't even remember him making lame jokes in that one. Like, so this has led to a narrative that the comedy genre is dead and long buried. And so today I'm asking, well, where did they all go? Why did that happen? Let's take a moment and think about that.
この番組は概要欄のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。
The once great nostalgia critic, who himself probably should have been and maybe could have been a famous comedy man, has argued that the comedy film genre was murdered by the overabuse of the movie series of films. One after another series of parody films that sickened and repelled audiences with their low-tier quality shit until everyone just stopped showing up and those movies stopped making money. I think that's an overgeneralization. I think maybe he just really hates those movies and maybe has like a beef he's trying to pick there. Thinking about the state of comedy itself is also kind of in the gutter. Like, I don't know, in the 80s and 90s, like famous comedians like Steve Martin, Eddie Murphy, they used to sell out freaking stadiums just to do comedy. And like, I don't know, nowadays, like, the big boys are either canceled for doing too many drugs, dating the wrong person, or in many cases, they're just too old. Some other comedians have decided to wage like holy war against like certain minorities, and that's also kind of off-putting to most people. It doesn't help that the star system we have in America right now has also been actively trying to like prevent the rise of new movie stars, and therefore we have a very limited pool of people who like Hollywood considers funny right now. Like, if I had to ask you, like, who even is funny under the age of 30, could you answer that? It's a good question. Like, I can't even find a list of that. Like, the only list of that I can find is from 10 years ago. So now all those people are pushing 40. Like, I guess the comedy reality genre has really been rotting in a shallow grave for decades. And no, it's not because comedy went woke. And no, it's not because they made Scary Movie 6. Who the fuck even cares about that? Look, I don't know if I'm pissed, but maybe you should be. Looking at the release calendar right now, like, when you look at the comedy section in your favorite streaming service, like, what's up there? Like, on Netflix today, sure, Happy Gilmore is dominating. Otherwise, most of these movies are kind of really old. Like, Saturday Night is more of like a single day biopic about Lorne Michaels. It's kind of funny, but it's more fascinating and enlightening. Then we got Don't Look Up. That's a great satire movie, but it's pretty old, but Trump's president again, so I guess it works. Oh, and there's the Pop-Tart movie. That's how I saw that. And maybe the weirdest one I have to ponder on this list is the sixth funniest movie right now on Netflix being Glass Onion. Now, yeah, that's a character assassination of Elon Musk, but considering it's a murder mystery movie, I have a hard time saying that is a comedy, because it's not like I'm like falling out of my seat laughing at that one. I guess my point is, like, what happened to the big stupid ass comedies that like were so big in the movie theaters, even like not even like in the 2000s? Like, we used to get these big event comedies that had like 3 sequels. We had a bunch of Dumb and Dumber movies. Liar Liar was a thing. Austin Powers had a trilogy. I don't know, Meet the Parents. That series kind of went downhill. Now, like, look, if you want to laugh, like, nowadays people would rather just doom scroll Twitter until they find like some asshole than like sit down and watch a 2-hour Netflix original comedy. But I think the problem is also that comedy movies have kind of lost their fangs. They're either like too toothless now or just too like repulsive, and they're written by a committee and then they're smoothed out and focus grouped to death, and they're like, oh, we don't want to offend anyone. But like, newsflash, good comedy is supposed to be offensive. It's supposed to make you a little bit uncomfortable, because that's where the funny things actually come out. There's a big culture war thread right now on Twitter that like comedy died because it went too woke or too unwoke, and yeah, everyone's just like, I can't say X, Y, and Z anymore because comedy is dead. But I don't know. In my opinion, it's not that people don't want to make comedy movies. It's that people like have a fear of standing out and being punished right now. That's kind of why South Park is like fucking killing it this week, because like they don't give a shit. They have fuck you money. John Mulaney still packs arenas. And then like, even going back to Barbie, whether you argue that was a comedy or not, like that movie was pretty woke and it made like $1 billion. I guess like, it's so weird to me because I grew up in the 90s, and back then comedy films just ruled the box office. Jim Carrey, Adam Sandler, they were kind of everywhere. And those comedies weren't trying to like be profound. They weren't trying to win Oscars. They weren't trying to get everyone to like throw out their garbage. They were just trying to be funny. And I guess that kind of humor like somehow faded away. And then in like the 2010s, we just got a bunch of clever dialogue driven indie crap. Here's the big problem though. It's that the studio straight up killed comedy. They saw superheroes doing the big money, and they were like, why would I waste $25 million making a weird comedy when I could make $800 million and make a fucking Avengers clone? Like, I feel like I need to bring up There's Something About Mary again. Like, that movie had a budget of $20 million, and it was just Adam Sandler and Cameron Diaz being weird on a beach. And that was one of the biggest films of 1998. So I saw this play out over my lifetime, but basically because the studios kept chasing blockbuster money and spectacle, they devalued comedy films and now would only consider a comedy film if it had a special effects hook to it, or some kind of like weird like character in the random comedic scenes. Hence back to Barbie and Jurassic Park somehow being considered comedies. There was also this weird notion that it was better to make comedies as animation, hence the B movie, hence, I don't know, Cat in the Hat. But then there's like this bureau of stupid effing people who all consider animation for kids. And then that somehow had a trickle down effect where people started considering that only comedy movies were for kids. And where did that lead us? I don't know. For a while, just the world got increasingly worse. There were increasingly cheaper comedy movies. And then I don't know what happened, maybe around like 2015, maybe after the Avengers, maybe after Obama. Just, it seems like they gave up on comedy as a genre entirely. And it doesn't help that Hollywood also stopped trying to make movie stars. And this kind of broke SNL's function as a comedy movie star factory. I think that's one of the reasons SNL was broken, because SNL was kind of like a pipeline where like a character would get popular enough on SNL that they would make a movie of that character. And then through that movie, the actor playing that character would become a movie star. But the problem is the low budget comedy movies stopped impressing people, and then they got too low budget. Like, I think Seth MacFarlane did do a really good job with like the Ted series by like managing to balance like low budget comedy, but with like the CGI bear being the one impressive magic trick that people showed up for. I guess to save comedies need to like be more messy, be more offensive. But maybe half the reason the genre is broken is because either no one is famous enough anymore, or no one is famous enough for anyone to care to take a chance on. Like Naked Gun was directed by Akira Schaffer, and I've never heard of that guy before, but apparently he's been on SNL for years and directed that weird Chippendale movie I kind of liked, and has been working in some capacity on some movies since 2005. If this guy is so hilarious, why is he so low key? Why don't people like come to his door? Like, anyway, yeah, the point is the system's out of order and everything's messed up, and it's a big problem. Let me try to sum it all up because I feel like I'm getting off track. Hollywood stopped investing in low-budget movies because they only wanted blockbuster money, even though that resulted in a higher risk, higher reward stake system where, you know, they would spend all their money on fucking, I don't know, Gattaca and lose all their cash. Then lack of low-budget movies caused there to be like less movie stars made, and then the audiences got trained to only go to blockbusters because that was the only thing that mattered. Streaming came to be a thing, and a bunch of low-quality movies got pushed to streaming. So then when there were these low-budget comedy movies, people stopped watching them because they would feel unsatisfied if they didn't have like some dumb CGI animal talking to them in a car in one scene or something. I guess what I'm saying is, although we need to go back to making those low-budget movies, they also need to throw in some kind of weird CGI element to win people over. I don't know if that's a problem or not, but I feel like that's what people are requesting, so I feel like that's the way it is. Like back to Naked Gun really didn't have any of that either, but it had a few jokes where like Leslie Nielsen would like fly through the air or fight a snowman. And so overall the film was well crafted enough that I could argue that it's maybe the true comedy blockbuster that we've been waiting to see all these years. The Sonic movies also come in a close second because while the Sonic movies have a lot going on with them, they at least have Jim Carrey putting in his classic shtick, although I'm a little bit worried that they seem to be slowly trudging down into the more mature and darker stories that the Sonic games also dead-ended into. I guess that's why Happy Gilmore fell flat in the end, because while it was definitely written to pivot into a more blockbuster spectacle with the XFL golf guys at the end, it then ended up just being a bunch of clowns in rock star outfits playing golf, and fundamentally that doesn't really impress anyone. It's just, oh, you're playing golf in a weird outfit, how impressive. Like, the movie ultimately ends with this big spectacle of Adam Sandler having to play golf on a giant spinning disc, which I definitely see as an attempt to reach like a blockbuster like status quo, but again, it's just a giant spinning disc. It's not really that impressive. Like, maybe it's even anti-impressive because, you know, Happy Gilmore, thinking back to Happy Gilmore 1, that was just extremely funny Adam Sandler playing off extremely horrible Shooter McGavin being an uncontrolled madman with anger issues, and that's all he really needed. Shooter McGavin is also in Happy Gilmore 2, but he's not the villain, so it's not the same. I guess the problem here is that people were expecting more from their comedy movies, and the studios weren't able to deliver that, and then finally they just stopped making comedy movies forever. Now, Naked Gun definitely finds the balance. It's short, it's funny, and it's got like high budget jokes. I guess that's my rant for the day, but yeah, what I ended up with at the end is Nostalgia Critic is wrong, Scary Movie didn't kill comedy, Twitter's wrong, it wasn't the woke, anti-woke people feuding that killed comedy. I'm just going to blame that the studio was chasing blockbuster movie, then there were no new movie stars, and then ultimately Hollywood got caught in this Schrodinger's box of madness that they weren't willing to make comedy movies a spectacle, but they aren't willing to make spectacle movies funny, and so that's why comedy is dead. Anyway, let me know if you think differently. Let's have a talk about it. I don't know what to think, but that's where my thoughts are after watching Naked Gun, which was a really funny movie that made me feel better. So if you want to feel better, watch this movie. All right, that's it. Later.